Chicago and the Philippines. A comprehensive review of the week's special community events, featuring many exciting personalities, handled by the most professional Chicago Philippine Reports TV staff.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Chicago Philippine Reports TV, still the #1 Filipino show in the Midwest. I'm Grilly Pascual. Welcome to our show. Today we have all the top stories from the Philippines. We also have what's happening in our own Filipino American community of Chicago. We have interesting interviews led by our very own executive producer, Miss Veronica Leighton. We have Brigitte, Cueter, Carino. All these are coming up and more. Afterward from our sponsors, please stay with us.
Yan! Dito na! Perfect!
Asian markets fluctuated on Thursday after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to impose more global trade tariffs, and Nvidia's good but not great results failed to impress. Here at home, Philippine shares closed lower.
Because of what happens in the U.S. and Trump, and suddenly there's a tariff and there's an issue with China, then the markets will not go up. So it's really beyond our control, because in terms of corporate expectations, our corporates are really doing well and we're getting acknowledged for that. Except it's the outside really that's beyond our control. Now when the U.S. sneezes, we have a cold. At least it's not pneumonia.
In corporate stories, PLDT posts reported net income of 32.3 billion pesos, up 21% for 2024. But excluding the impact of asset sales and losses from Maya Innovations, telco core income is flat at 35.1 billion. Revenues up 3%, with data and broadband, which grew by 3%, contributing 83% to consolidated service revenues. Excluding the legacy drag, consolidated service revenues were higher by 5% year-on-year. As of end 2024, net debt is at 273 billion pesos. 14% of gross debt is denominated in US dollars, while 5% of total debt is unhedged. On to another MVP-led company, Philex Mining, reports a 20% drop in net income for the full year of 2024, as higher operating expenses and smaller tonnage milled offset the positive impact of higher gold and copper prices and improving forex rates. Meanwhile, China Bank posts record profits for 2024. The bank generated 21% higher revenues of 65.5 billion, mainly from net interest income, which grew by 19% to 63.5 billion on the back of asset-based expansion and improvement in net interest margin to 4.5%. Despite the easing of its non-performing loans ratio to 1.6%, the bank also increased its credit provisions to 3.3 billion.
Probably for this year, although we continue to be cautiously optimistic, we may not see the same rate of growth in terms of loans, because a lot of it was accelerated in the latter part or fourth quarter of last year. So probably you might say that some of our loan growth for this year was a bit front-loaded in the latter part of fourth quarter last year.
And Eusebio Tanco's DigiPlus Interactive, which is behind Bingo Plus, set to expand its geographical footprint with plans to establish DigiPlus Global in Singapore. This will serve as a support function center and regional hub dedicated to strategic partnerships, talent acquisition, and international growth, key pillars of DigiPlus's long-term growth strategy.
ViaTimes, vital news, vibrant views for the Filipino Asian communities in Chicago. ViaTimes for your most interesting and exciting reading and your party coverages. ViaTime has very interesting columnists. You name it, ViaTimes has it. Law, Filipino news, dentistry, immigration, humor, serious opinions, health, beauty, mysticism, Bata Corner, showbiz, and intelligently written editorials. Call ViaTimes at 773-866-0811.
Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat and welcome to Veronica's segment of the show. Today, I have a very interesting, exciting, and a young and creative person as our guest today. And her name is Miss Lani Montreal.
Yeah, Montreal.
Montreal, right? Montreal. Okay. Um, Listen to this. Lani is a queer Filipina and who is a writer and a performer, educator, and community activist based here in Chicago. We're proud to have a person like this in Chicago and whose works have been published and produced in North America, Asia, and on cyberspace. My God, you're all over. This woman is fantastic. Hi,
Thank
welcome to our show, Lani.
Salamat po.
Okay, first, what else you don't do? Okay, you are so creative, and I know you came from a family of actors too. And okay, we will talk about that later. All right, first thing, okay, what is your most recent project for our community?
Um, so the most recent project is my solo show. It's called Anak ni Tapia, Leaving Mother, and we premiered it last year at Links Hall in June, but we're remounting it and we're taking it to different places. So it's going to be at Northeastern Illinois University in March 27, which is my birthday. So, and then March 29, we're doing a fundraiser for Rizal Center. And we would love for the community to come and support our community center. And we'll have food for both events. So please watch out for announcements about it.
Great. With the projects that you do, uh, are you behind the scenes or you're also acting?
So the Anak ni Tapia, for that one, I am performing it. I wrote it and performed it myself. Um, so it's a 90-minute, it's a 80 to 90-minute show, and we have like music. I also sing in it. There's going to be projections on the screen. So it's really a kind of nostalgic piece because I talk a lot about being the daughter of Meli Tagasa, who's the Miss Tapia. I don't know if you know her because I know you came here in your, very early on in your life. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but the show um the show was started in 1973, Baltic and Company. It was originally a comic strip on Manila Bulletin. Tapos, my mother was supposed to write the TV version. So they were going to televise this comic strip. But then when the creator, Ronnie Santiago, saw her, he said, "Oh, I think that's our Miss Tapia. She should play the role." And so she ended up playing the role for 5 years for Batik and Company. And then there was another show. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called School Bukol. And that one is with the comedians, Tito Vic and Joey. And they wanted to resurrect her role as a teacher, and so that's exactly what they did. So Miss Tapia kind of like had a rebirth after the other show ended, and so all in all she played that role on TV for 15 years. So the story that I'm sharing is, my life as that child who's like, carrying her bags. I was her alalay. And also just being teased at school because my mom was this butt of jokes in the TV shows. And so, all of that, and just also just getting to know my mother better beyond beyond her character and beyond her being a mother, you know, the woman behind the mother and behind the role, kind of getting to know her in that sense. And there's a lot of drama, diba?
Hey,
I think mother and daughter relationships, there's always a lot of drama. So
character, the character of Miss Tapia in some of your works, more or less refers to your actress mom, right?
yeah, that's what it is. She
Yeah,
played the
can you talk about your mom a little bit? Uh,
yeah, of course. That's why you gotta watch the show.
oh,
So, like I said, growing up in her shadow, it was very confusing for a child, right? It was confusing for a child. I mean, on the one hand, people are saying, "Oh, they're kind of odd when they meet you," and because she's pretty popular. We go out in the grocery store, and everybody wants her autograph. And I always tell her, please don't come to school because my classmates are gonna make fun of me.
all
Because
right.
and then growing up, I didn't have my own identity because they just called me anak ni Tapia. It's like, that's where it came
Stop,
from.
yeah, yeah.
Everybody was calling me, "Oy, ano si anak ni Tapia." So I didn't have my real name and my real identity. And I think that's part of why it was hard for me growing up in her shadow to create my own identity and to accept who I am as a person outside of being her daughter. And so that also contributed to my desire to come here to the United States and kind of, build my own identity.
Wow, wow. Okay, well, great. You are working closely with your works, closely with the Circa Pintig,
Yes,
right?
yes,
And can you tell us about that work association with Circa Pintig and what is Circa Pintig?
thank you. Yes. So Circa Pintig, it started off as Pintig, which means heartbeat, right? And they started in the early 90s. I wasn't here yet. I was living in Canada. I lived there in Toronto for a while. And when I saw them perform, at I can't remember what auditorium was it, but I was just visiting Chicago and I just wanted to see a Filipino theater, and I went to see them perform, and I was very impressed. I was like, wow, it's an amazing group of people. They're all so talented. And it was the play that I saw was called Scenes from an Unfinished Country, which was about you know, the Philippine American War, and also how it relates to the current relationship between the Philippines and the US, and what it's like for Filipino Americans to um how do they kind of find their roots, right? And so that was the I remember that was the theme of the show. And I was so impressed. And I had asked this festival, it's called Theater of the Oppressed Festival, because they were there in Toronto. It was getting held there, and one of my plays was part of the festival. And I just like told them about, hey, this Chicago group, they're pretty amazing. Why don't you invite them? And so they did invite them, and Pintig showed the same play. And that's when I got to know them better. And I kind of like ran away with the circus. I just like went with them, or like, and I didn't go with them right at that moment, but they told me that they had another play that they're working on and they need some actors and singers, actors who can sing. So I'm like, oh, okay, I can audition. And so I auditioned, and then I got I got one of the parts. It wasn't a big part, but I was happy. And then it was just very nice to find that kind of community of Filipino Americans who, are kind of like my age, and they were speaking the language. Because when I was living in Canada, I also had a community, but mostly they were Filipino Canadians. I was teaching them Tagalog.
Hello. All right.
Yeah, it was nice to be able to talk to Filipinos here. They talk Tagalog, and it just gave me a strong sense of community, and I decided to stay. And I went to school here for my master's. I was able to get my master's here from Roosevelt University. And throughout this time, I was just working with them with Pintig. And then they transitioned into Circa Pintig because, a lot of the members have little kids, and so we needed something for the kids. We needed a theater program, give them workshops. And so I became part of that too. So we were teaching the kids, and we were creating stories with them. And so then I wrote the play Gift of Tongue, which is a children's play. In I believe that was in 2000 or 2000. I can't remember anymore. I think 2004, 2003 and 4. And so then that was really nice to have that. And then there was a merging of CIRCA, which is the Center for Immigrant Resources and Community Arts. And like I said, it started out just, we were just working with little kids to do theater, and then we kind of merged the two. So that's where Circa Pintig, that's like kind of like the short version of the history of Circa Pintig as I know it. And yes, and so since then I'm still part of it, and I've done a lot of plays with Circa Pintig, and the last one we did was called Panther in the Sky, which is about gun violence and its effects on communities, different communities, including the Black community, the African American community, the Hispanic community, as well as the Filipino or the Asian community. And so it's we think of it as a tool to bring these different communities together, so then we can start talking about how we're impacted by gun violence. Because if you're in Chicago, you hear it all the time.
All right.
That's right. So those are the two projects that I've just had recently, which is, Panther in the Sky, and then now it's Anak ni Tapia, leaving mother. So
Lani, you have recently received an award, a big award from a Filipino organization or a publication, that is. All right. Can you talk about it?
oh no, it's actually,
Congratulations.
oh, thank you. It's actually not a Filipino organization. It's the Chicago Reader, which is it was like they had every year they would hold this. It's called 2024 Best of Chicago. And so they ask people to nominate the readers of the magazine. So it's not a Filipino American group, but it is the Chicago Reader. And um so then they had this people like vote for their candidates, which was really nice, because I'd rather have that than like some awards organization that doesn't even know I exist, right? So it's
Yes.
nice that people actually like nominated me and nominated Circa Pintig and the play that we had, Panther in the Sky. And it was really nice to get first runner up. We
Hey,
didn't get the best playwright, but I got the first runner up, and our play Panther in the Sky was one of the finalists. So that was really nice.
Right. Congratulations. You deserve it.
Salamat.
What are any kind of projects, well, creative projects, I mean, in the offing?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, we're trying to finish the touring of these two plays. We're going to LA, so Anak ni Tapia is going to LA for the Hollywood Fringe, and we're also going to Toronto. So Toronto, Canada. Anak ni Tapia will be there too. And then I just opened my email and we got an invitation to Italy. So we might actually go to Italy.
Oh,
I hope so, but we might
exciting.
have. Yes, I know it's very exciting, but also Panther in the Sky, we're trying to bring it to different neighborhoods and colleges and universities, and so we're gonna start a fundraiser for that, Panther in the Sky. So I hope that we can announce it in your show when it starts. But those are the two things that I'm trying to finish first before I start on a new one. But yes, I do have some new projects, and I will let you know once there's more once there is more definition and more certainty around it.
Okay. Would you like, before we sign off, would you like to invite our viewing audience to your current show?
Yes, please. So please watch out for announcements on social media. And I'm hoping that we get the Filipino newspapers as well to announce it. We're doing Anak ni Tapia, Leaving Mother, again at Northeastern Illinois University El Centro campus. And it's going to be March 27. That's a Thursday and it's in the evening. And then there's another show at Rizal Center, which is our very own Filipino American Community Center, 1332 Irving Park. And that will be March 29 at 3 p.m. And we're gonna have all these announcements on our website, which is called circapintig.org. So please go there and check it out and come and join us.
All right, very good. I thank you, Lani, for gracing our show today. And that was Miss Lani Montreal, one of the prides of our Filipino American community in Chicago. Like Miss Lani, all
All right.
right. Maraming salamat. At
Salamat po. Bye.
It's more fun in the Philippines.
Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat and welcome to Veronica's segment of the show today. We have a very interesting young person. When I say young, he's really very young. Filipino American, and this guy, although he's young, he has been I mean, I've watched him. I've watched him in this little community of ours, and he is a very successful, multi-awarded realtor in our community. Very popular. His name is Jason Chavez. Hi, Jason. How are you?
Hi, Tita V.
Welcome to
Glad
our
to be
show.
here. Thanks for the nice introduction, but
Okay. Yeah, that is true though. I've watched you since I met you at the party one time. And my God, by golly, talagang ano talaga, impressive. Impressive this Mr. Jason Chavez. And he is really a very successful realtor in our community. And I invited him today Well, first thing first, please introduce yourself and what you're doing about your company and everything. He is a realtor from Berkshire Hathaway Home Services.
Mm-hmm.
Stark Real Estate. Okay.
Yes. So, hi. Hi everyone, mga kabayan, kumusta po? I'm Jason Chavez, licensed realtor, real estate broker with Berkshire Hathaway Stark Real Estate in Palatine. And I used to be the operations manager for ARIA, Greater Chicago, which stands for Asian American Real Estate Association of America. But I had to step down because we have daddy responsibility. So we do have now an 18-month year old baby girl, and now I'm focusing on helping our Filipino. Sorry, I just got a phone call, but I'm busy right now. But anyway, I'm working on for home buyers, home sellers, investors, and even renters. But I focus primarily on home ownership to assist and guide and educate our kababayans here in Illinois. So there's Filipino Americans, there's first-time home buyers or repeat buyers, and even home sellers. They need to be educated in terms of not just about the real estate, not just about the process, but as well as about the U.S. economics, right? Because there's so many factors that affect the real estate market, and that's very crucial for people to understand because this is their hard-earned money. This is their hard-earned money, and um, they deserve to be educated, to be informed, and not just to guide them and tell them about how to buy a property, how to sell their property. And that's what I'm here for. And I have a background in industrial engineering. When I was in the Philippines, I was an industrial engineer, and then I studied software engineering here as well at Northeastern Illinois University. So, yun po. Thank you for listening.
How long have you been in real estate? How long have you been doing it?
So I got my license back in 2018, but I started doing the business during COVID. And I remember my first client actually got COVID. When I was showing him home, we were wearing N95 mask, and we're like distance apart from each other. So I will open the door first, get the kid, open the door for him, and I will go back in my car and call him like, hey, the door is open. You can go ahead and check the property. So that's how it started. I was like,
How you got started?
yes, a lot of Filipinos are asking for help, in terms of buying a property. But I was like, you know what? This is my calling to help these people out, get their property, get their dream house.
Wow, COVID time. You took advantage of that critical time, and you really became successful with what you're doing. And you are an immigrant from the Philippines, right? Young immigrant.
That is correct, Paul. Yes.
And you officially started in 2022, and you have been successful with what you're doing. Amazing, really. And Jason, you still look young. You look like you're 18 years old. I'm telling you. And okay, so all right. I invited you here today to talk about your business. I'm sure that you really love what you're doing, and I watch you. We are Facebook friends, and I watch you succeed by getting so many awards, and I mean, selling, really selling a lot of properties. And okay, so for this year, 2025, we're here in January 2025. Okay. Jason, can you please tell us what is, for the sake of our viewing audience, what is the outlook of the real estate market here in Chicago? I mean, not only in Chicago, in Illinois.
In Illinois, yes, po, Tita. So, with regards to the current market, right? I don't mean to scare you, okay, But we are in a very crucial stage because in 4 days from now we will have a new administration, right? The Trump administration will take the office, and those things, those policies that the FOMC have already planned all the way to 2026 now needs to be changed, because those were set up with the with the current administration, the Biden administration, but now another administration is taking over, so they have to restructure their plan. Okay, so the first thing that we have to understand is we are in debt crisis. Our nation, as the U.S., okay, if you will go to fiscal data.treasury.gov, we owe $36.17 trillion as a country. Can you believe that? $36.17 trillion. And the main reason why is that is because our administration, the government, has been spending twice as what we are making. So the spending of the nation is $1.79 trillion. Okay. However, we only make as a country 1.08 trillion dollars. So we have a deficit of 200. We have a deficit of $711 billion as a nation, accumulatively. Okay, this is historically, not just for this year, for last year. So what this means to us as home buyers, home sellers in real estate, right? So it simply means that the new administration that will be taking over has to implement strict policies to collect more money, to have more tax revenues, okay, to combat the deficit, to lessen the unnecessary spending of the country. And one of the things that the new administration is going to impose is that the tax policies or the tariff policy. So the upcoming president has already told the public, right, that he's going to charge 10% tariff to to Chinese goods, and up to 25% tariff on import products from Mexico and Canada. So if Trump is going to tax that, I mean, I know what he's doing. He's doing that to collect more tax revenue for the nation, right? To pay off our debts. We're talking about $36 trillion here, right? So it's going to take time to pay it off. So Trump has to do that. However, it's going to cost the consumers for high inflation. The inflation will reaccelerate. Right now, we're at 3.4% inflation, down to 3.2% CPI index. But that inflation is still higher than the Fed's goal, which is 2%. So we're still above there. So to make it short and simple, right? The new administration's policies will reaccelerate inflation by imposing taxes and tariffs on our basic goods, right? Because these countries like Mexico, Canada, and China, they hold pretty much a lot of volume of our household products, our daily products, from food, from basic commodities. So if the government will impose tariffs and taxes to this nations, to these products, the distributor, the manufacturer, all of these big guys, right, in the industry, they will pass it on to the end consumer, which is us. And guess what? The prices of everything, basic goods and commodities, will go up, and that will correlate to the housing market. So what's going to the housing market is, if everything goes up, right, the labor, materials to cost a house, everything's going to go up. There will be inflation, and the interest rate will not come down. The interest rate right now, if you go to mortgage.com, Mortgage News Daily, it ended at 7.07% for conventional 30-year fix. If you go to CNBC, it's at 7.11%. So do you think the government will lower the rate down if we have a high inflation, if the inflation will go back? No, because we don't want to encounter the same problem that we've had during COVID. Because during COVID, when I started doing real estate, rates were so low because people were afraid to spend money. So in order to motivate the consumers, the government lowered the Fed fund rate down to almost 0%. That also affected the 30-year fixed mortgage rate. So a lot of buyers bought property and refinanced their homes to those home sellers during that time. That actually moved the prices of homes to go up. I had clients who were buying homes with $10,000 to $15,000 more than the asking, because they want to catch the lower interest rate, right, which is around 2.5 to 3%. So in Illinois alone, there's a good and bad, right? If you are a homeowner, okay, your properties have gone up by, see here in the data, so by 5.4% increase. So in 2024, the median home price for the entire Illinois is now $295,000 year over year. However, the housing inventory remains low. It's basic law of supply and demand. If there's so much inventory, so much supply, and the demand is low, right? Then that's the only time that the price will go down. But if there's low inventory, why there's low inventory? Because a lot of homeowners, they want to hold their property because they have lower interest rate because they refinanced during 2020. Why would they sell their house just in order for them to get a smaller house and pay the same thing? So they will keep their properties and they will not sell it, right? That's why most houses nowadays in the market are the ones that are either divorce properties or estate sale, right? Like it's really rare to see someone who wanted to sell their house just to get a new house. So in a different perspective, with the new administration taking over, they're gonna lessen some restrictions to the builders across the nation. The top builder that I'm working with, D.R. Horton, they are building so many homes across the U.S. and they're giving away up to up to $10,000 closing cost incentives, and you can find it with a regular mortgage banker, and they can give you as low as 4.99% for 30-year fix. So the thing is, a lot of people are still afraid to get into real estate, in today's market in 2025 because of the high interest rates. But here's what I'll tell you: high interest rates, right, 7% or 6%, they're not going to be there forever. It's a cycle. The government has to keep up and reduce the interest rate because they are also paying interest rates or interest on the government's debt. We have debt. So if you have a debt and you have high interest, you gotta do something to lower that interest, right? And the 30-year fixed mortgage correlates to the 10-year treasury yield. So come to think of this, right? If someone owes a lot of money because that person, say for example, that person makes $10,000 a month and he spends $20,000 a month. So he's going to go bankrupt at the end of the day. So what he's doing is, in order for him to pay off the debt, is borrowing money from someone. So he's selling bonds. The country is selling bonds. The problem is, if no one will buy bonds from the U.S., the government, will raise the interest rate to encourage this buyers. Could be China, could be Europe, right? This outside countries, or even private investors, so they can attract people to buy bonds. So if they do so, they will increase the interest rate, and it's going to be a dangerous cycle for the economy. But nothing is permanent, right? The only thing that I tell people is why it's still always a good thing to buy a house is because real estate property values is always on an upward trend. If you miss the boat, if you miss the train, for example, for a $300,000 condo, right? Then you will never see that $300,000 condo again, because there's no way but up. The real estate market in the entire history from 1940s to 2025 was already down for like 6 times, like only 6 years. Imagine that. That's from 2000, let's say 2025 minus 1941, we're talking about 85 years, right? But the market was only down in just 6 years. So right now, I have a lot of clients that I'm working with. Most of them are thinking of buying, but I tell them, like what you always hear from realtors and mortgage officers, right? Marry the house and date the rate, because once you miss the price of the house, it's never gonna go back. Because the only way that the market will crash is if there's more supply, meaning more houses for sale. And one of the things that could trigger that is if people can't afford to pay their mortgage, then they're going to go foreclosure, and that's the time that we will have oversupply. But as long as people have jobs, right? People are making money, people are paying off have the capability to pay their mortgage, then there's going to be no crash. You will just keep on. There's always a cost of waiting. Every time you wait, you're losing the opportunity to buy a house for a cheaper price, because that house that you've been looking on the internet, right? That was listed for $400,000 before. It's now $450,000 now. So, yeah, did that.
Know that. I'm aware of that. So, you mentioned all these facts that's supposedly to be in the offing. Because this week is the inauguration of President Trump, and we are welcoming him as our new president. And it sounds to me that um, as far as the real estate, um, facts are concerned, it looks like it's kind of dim, dark and dim for the consumers, for the buyers and sellers. So, well, do you think that government policy will really be enforced? It's a sort of, how sure are you that it's going to be enforced?
Well, in terms of assurance, right, there's no such thing as 100% assurance and accuracy because knowing the newly elected president, right, sometimes he says something in public, but then, you know, change it once he's there in the position, right? But to me, it's necessary for the government to do that because that's the only way to combat the deficit, right? Because the administration has spent so much, right? So much money. We don't know where the money went to, right? We don't want to get into that. But the challenge is that the new administration has to do something to lessen the expenses of the government. That's why you probably heard of Elon Musk and Vivek, who will be leading the imaginary government agency called Doge, right? Department of Government Efficiency, because their goal is to kind of audit the IRS, audit this, government bodies, right, to make sure that they're not wasting government funds. But it's necessary for the government to do so, so that way we can lower expenses and make sure that we are spending the budget wisely, and pay off the deficit and make more taxes revenue based off the tariff and other tax policies that the new administration is going to impose.
Okay, Jason. All right, I got you. Um, what do you think uh, is? This is another foreboding news about and I know that you're aware of it, about many many people are moving out of the state of Illinois
Hmm.
because the problem about number one is property tax in Illinois. It's one of the highest in the country.
Hmm.
Stay relevant.
So yeah, so in terms of that, it really depends from which country. I mean, from which country these people are going to, based on some stats that I've seen before, right? Most people from Illinois, they move to warmer places like Texas or Florida, right? Because they want somewhere warmer. But in terms of property taxes, it really depends on the location. Some areas of Illinois still have lower property taxes. Like right now, the hottest city or town in Illinois in terms of real estate is actually Rockford. Like that's really the hottest right now. The affordability and faster sales are actually going into Rockford, and the median home price in Rockford has actually gone up to $242,000 compared to Chicago, which is $337,000. So in terms of in terms of the taxes, I can argue that California is still worse than Illinois, right? I'm not going to say worse, but we are still better off California and New York in terms of property taxes. That's why a lot of people, personally serve clients who move from California, bought a single family home, new construction home in Elgin with Lennar, because they spent almost $600,000. I forgot the price of the house, but I can pull it up. But it's less than $1 million, right? They told me we can never find a house as big as this, as beautiful as this, as new as this, with less than $700,000. With that price, we'll probably be able to buy a smaller house, not so nice house with that price. And taxes are ridiculous, right? So, yun po.
Okay. All right. So what can you advise to our, I mean, some people still would like to remain here in the state of Illinois in spite of, okay. And so what can you advise either, I mean, if you're in the market, either seller or buyer of real estate here in Illinois? What is the outlook?
So yeah, for the outlook in terms of Illinois, in terms of the housing market, we're not the best state out there, right? Because I'll just look at the U.S. migration data from Redfin, right? So it says there the top 10 areas that people are moving to, okay, is Sacramento, California, Cape Coral. Okay, they're moving to Sacramento, California, Cape Coral, Florida, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Salisbury, Maryland, Portland, Maine, Las Vegas, Nevada, Sarasota, Florida, Phoenix, Arizona, Nashville, Tennessee, and Hilo, Hawaii. So none of these options were none of these towns or places are Chicago or Illinois, right? But it says right here on the other hand, top 10 areas people are moving from. We're in the top six. Chicago's in the top six. Top one is LA, California. A lot of people are moving out of LA. New York is the second. Third is San Francisco. Fourth
The
is Seattle.
The wildfires, LA
Wildfires. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one thing that I would actually mention about, though it's not really related to real estate, but at some point, the natural disaster affects the people's preferences, right, in terms of finding a place to go. So I've been talking about this with my wife and with my cousins, because I have cousins in Atlanta, in New Jersey, in North Carolina, and Florida, right, and even California. And we were just joking around. Like I always tell them, like, I think Illinois is the safest state so far, because those states are by the coast are actually always getting hit by natural disasters, natural phenomena like wildfire or probably tsunami, or hurricanes, flood, and we don't have alligator here. The only thing that people are hate about Illinois is the cold weather, and that's it. But you can always double your jacket, right? And that's why you have a car to drive. You have heater in your car, but
rather face the snowstorms and the blizzards.
well, yeah, but it's not as worse. It's not as worse as before, right? Because for the past couple of years, I think snowstorms were worse. Because now, like, we have a very minimal snow so far, and we're almost halfway January,
I think
right?
I say that too. Yeah, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah,
Count our blessings. Or always count our blessings anyway.
right, right. Because if
Okay.
if your houses get hit by natural phenomena, you'll have to pay insurance. Your
Yeah.
insurance premium will go up.
All right, Jason. I congratulate you for what you're doing, and I think we're running out of time. One last word. The last quick words.
One
To
last quick
our
word.
kids.
All right, boss. So yeah, knowing that as a nation we are in a very dark, I would say dark, debt crisis. It's a turmoil, right? Imagine you live in a country where you think like this is the superpower, right? U.S. is the richest country around the world, but now that you know that we actually owe $36.17 trillion, and the government keeps on spending money. So, and inflation will always beat your savings. If you have $100,000 savings in your savings account, 2 years down the road, if inflation keeps going up, that $100,000 value is not the same in 2 years. So the best way for you to protect your hard-earned money is to invest it in assets that appreciate. And you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about real estate. Real estate is proven and tested. Not just I'm not don't listen to me, okay? And I know I'm a realtor, so I'm gonna push you to sell your house or buy houses, right? But do your due diligence. Go check out government websites, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The best way to protect your hard-earned money is to always invest in appreciating assets. And it's not just limited to real estate. You can also buy gold, silver, those tangible assets. You could buy an actual gold and keep it to your room, right? But what I'm saying is, don't just save up money and leave them in your bank or put them under your bed or in your chest, because those money will be weakened by the inflation. So you have to find a way to combat the inflation. By far, real estate appreciates for at least 3% to 5% a year. Inflation is inflation by far, right, is around 3.2%. So imagine that if you're saving money, the bank will just give you maybe a fraction of what you put in there in their account, right? Instead
Correct.
of buying a real estate where you have more appreciation. And not just that, because I have a lot of friends who own who own stocks, cryptos. I do cryptos as well. But what I tell them is this: I get it. You have so much money in your stocks account, right? In your Charles Schwab, Merrill Lynch, name them, right? But I don't care, because you don't enjoy them now. When are you going to enjoy it? When you cash it, when you sell your stocks, your shares. If you have a real estate, you get to bring your friends, let them enjoy your beautiful house while you're making money, while you're letting your house appreciates over time. So real estate is the only asset where you can make money through appreciation, right? You have tax benefits as well. At the same time, you get to enjoy it with your family and friends.
Great, terrific, beautiful, beautiful financial advice. You will be our guru there. One of these days, pagtanda-tanda mo.
Yes, it's always a pleasure, Paul. I'm always here. I'm a giver. If you have any questions, just don't hesitate to ask me. Even if there's no guarantee that you will work with me, I'm okay.
Number,
Well,
telephone number.
my phone number, you can reach me at 312-801-0451. Jason Chavez, your realtor.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. Your Jason has Jasohn.
Correct, Tita V. The only one.
HN. All right, talagang Pinoy. All right. Maraming salamat sa iyo, Jason. At hanggang sa muli.
Yes,
All
Paul.
right.
Thanks for having me, guys. God bless you. Thank you,
Alright.
po.
At maraming salamat po sa inyong panonood. Ako po si Veronica. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.
Bye.
We would like to welcome all of you to Baladna Jewelry. We have a very big selection of 21 karat gold jewelry imported from the Middle East, from Dubai, Saudi, and Bahrain. And we have a very big selection of diamond. We offer free financing for 6 months, and we have a layaway system which you can leave your stuff for 3 months. We repair gold and we buy old gold. Welcome to Baladna Jewelry.
Salamat po.
Good afternoon. This is Brigitte Carino Cueter bringing you this week's local news from our community. For the first time in Illinois, the Secretary of State's office is making electronic lien and titling available when purchasing a vehicle from a participating dealer, Secretary Alexi Giannoulias announced. Illinois joins 25 other states that have active ELT programs. This new program allows vehicle titles to be processed, stored, and released digitally, eliminating the need for arduous paperwork, physical document mailing, or in-person visits to a DMV facility. An electronic lien and titling program will make the process of buying a car significantly easier, more convenient, and more secure than the paper system. What used to take months can be done with a few clicks, dramatically reducing the time tax customers were forced to pay when titling a vehicle, said Giannoulias. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson asked the city to take out $830 million in bonds just one day after Chicago's credit rating hit near junk status, according to Standard & Poor's Global. Johnson claims the bonds are for infrastructure and capital improvements, but there is a broad language in how the money could be spent. He could use it for the contract his former co-workers at the Chicago Teachers Union are seeking. In listing acceptable uses for funds, the ordinance includes loans or grants to assist individuals, not-for-profit organizations, or educational or cultural institutions, or for-profit organizations or to assist other municipal corporations, units of local government, school districts, the state, or the United States of America. Pope Francis remained in critical condition Sunday, and blood tests showed early kidney failure. But he remains alert and responsive and attended Mass, the Vatican said, as the 88-year-old pontiff battles pneumonia and a complex lung infection. In a late update, the Vatican said Francis hadn't had any more respiratory crises since Saturday night, but was still receiving high flows of supplemental oxygen. Some blood tests showed initial mild kidney failure, but doctors said it was under control. The Illinois Department of Natural Resources is seeking campground hosts for the 2025 camping season for state parks, recreation areas, and historic sites across Illinois. Campground hosting is a perfect position for anyone who enjoys camping and helping other people. Hosts are often the first face to greet state park visitors. They check on arrivals and departures, write camping permits, acquaint campers with park facilities and regulations, answer questions about local and statewide attractions, help visitors plan outings, and more. Campground hosts have the privilege of free camping in their own RVs, motorhomes, or trailers at designated spots within state parks. Anyone interested in being a campground host can complete and submit a campground host program packet. Questions can be directed to the superintendent at the appropriate site. U.S. hospitals could face a bed shortage as early as 2032, with occupancy remaining elevated even as the country recovers from the COVID pandemic, a new study suggests. Average hospital occupancy following the pandemic has been about 75%, researchers found, dividing the average daily number of patients by the number of staffed hospital beds. That's 11 percentage points higher than before the pandemic, when average hospital occupancy was around 64%, researchers reported in February 19th in JAMA Network Open. That's all for today. Thank you for watching our news this week. This is Brigitte. See you next time.